Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS show for Tuesday, April 13th. Hope everyone had a good weekend. Hope everyone enjoyed yesterday's trade deadline. It wasn't as chaotic as normal, but that was the reason I wasn't able to do a show yesterday. Just a little bit more going on at dailyfaceoff.com when when the trade deadline is going on. Not too many big trades yesterday. There were some big trades in the week leading up to the deadline, some of which will impact tonight's slate. One of the biggest trades of yesterday was my Detroit Red Wings sending Anthony Mantha to the Washington Capitals. Got an absolutely mammoth return, which is incredible for the Red Wings. But Anthony Mantha will be in the lineup tonight for the Washington Capitals. We'll also see Taylor Hall making his debut with the Bruins, and we'll get to all the other lineup information as we go along here. If you're new to the show, everything you see in today's Google Sheets can be available to you if you join DFO Premium. And if you have any questions as I go throughout the show, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll get to them as I go along. Thanks again, everybody, for joining me, and thanks to Jock Market for sponsoring today's show. If you're a U.S. Listener or viewer, check out Jock Market, download the app. It's DFS meets a stock exchange. Super cool. But we're going to talk a little bit about Draftkings tonight. Obviously FanDuel as well, but most of our prices and stuff are on Draftkings. But any of the information that's relevant on Draftkings is relevant on FanDuel as well, most likely, unless there's just an egregious price difference. First comment is from Sean Olson. Just wanted to say appreciate the great content you put out. Thanks so much, Sean. As long as we're all winning money, that's what we're here for. But let's get into tonight's slate. We'll start with the goalies. The first one being the Washington Capitals hosting the Philadelphia Flyers. They say Samsonov starts for Washington. Brian Elliott confirmed to start for the Flyers. The New Jersey Devils, unclear who starts for them. We are projecting to see Mackenzie Blackwood. Igor Shesterkin confirmed for the New York Rangers. The Bruins will host the Sabres. So not only will Taylor Hall be making his Bruins debut, it will be coming against the Sabres, which is pretty amazing. Jeremy Swayman will start. I think this is his third or fourth start in the last five for the Bruins. He's played very well for them thus far. It does look like Tuukka Rask, however, is going to be back on Thursday. So this could be, the end of the run here for Swayman, at least temporarily. Unclear who starts for the Bruins, but I would expect it to be Linus Ullmark. That's who we have projected. Hilariously, it looks like David Riddick, similar to Taylor Hall, will be making his Maple Leafs debut tonight, and it will come against his former team, the Calgary Flames. It looks hilarious on the DFO starting goalies page with both goalies rocking the Calgary mask. That's all we've got from now. But again, unconfirmed. They were, they did not name a starting goalie this morning, so it's not 100% going to be Riddick, but that's who it looks like we're going to see tonight. Jack Campbell, they've really been watching him closely, and he started last night. So I would expect to see Riddick tonight. They went out and got him for a reason. So Jacob Markstrom is likely to start for the Flames. The Predators will host the Lightning. No starting goalie information from either side, but the Predators are right in the thick of things in the playoff race. They need wins. UC Saros has been lights out. I would expect that, nobody else other than UC Saros for the Predators, barring injury. And then Andrei Vasilevsky is projected to start for the Lightning, but we did see a tweet today. They did not announce a starting goalie, but one of the reporters says he expects to see Curtis McElhinney tonight. No back-to-back situation whatsoever. They have been kind of going like 3 games on Vasilevsky, 1 game McElhinney type of thing. So maybe that's where he's leaning there. I'm still projecting Vasilevsky, but just keep an eye out. If you are planning on playing Vasilevsky tonight, it does seem like there is at least some thought that it could be McElhinney tonight. So just a heads up there. That's a 7 or 8 o'clock start. So 7:30 p.m. Eastern is when I will have the information for that when warmups gets underway. And then the final game at 8:30, Anton Khudobin confirmed to start for the Stars as they host the Florida Panthers, who will go with Chris Driedger. So a pretty solid 6-game slate tonight. Let's break it all down, and we will start up top with the Washington Capitals and the Philadelphia Flyers. If you've been watching this show religiously over the last little bit, you'll know that I have not been all that high on the Washington Capitals. They just aren't that great of a 5v5 hockey team. They don't look great on paper tonight, nor do the Flyers. But we will take a look at the matchups and everything nonetheless. In this game, not really a whole lot of hard matching going on. The most we'll see, Washington 1 will see basically the majority of Philadelphia, the Couturier line, and then Philadelphia 4, but no real hard matching going on. No matchups that really jump off the page to us. As I mentioned, Anthony Mantha will be making his Capitals debut. He is going to start on the left wing, which is a little bit surprising. He's played the majority of his career to this point on the right side, but he will go to the left wing. He has played there before. He will be with Nicholas Backstrom and TJ Oshie, so a really nice spot for Anthony Mantha to get, kind of hit the ground running in his first game with the Capitals. Tom Wilson moves up to play with Ovechkin and Kuznetsov. Mantha will also see power play 2-time with Lars Eller, Tom Wilson. That unit doesn't normally see a whole lot of ice time, so the power play opportunities for Mantha early on here will probably be few and far between. But I mean, they'll still sleep the last 30 seconds usually of each power play if Ovechkin doesn't score on the first one. So that's that for Mantha. But in terms of just the overall 5v5 play in this game, all four of the Capitals lines grade out below average offensively. Obviously this number for Washington 2 doesn't account for Anthony Mantha. It's impossible to do so. But with TJ Oshie and Nicholas Backstrom, they really haven't been all that great together. Whether or not Mantha provides a boost, I would imagine so. But overall, they have not been, Backstrom Oshie duo hasn't been all that strong offensively so far this season. All four lines grade out below average offensively. As for Philly, the only line that really looks okay is Philadelphia 2, which right now is Claude Giroux, Travis Konechny, and Jakub Voracek. They're doing really nicely in terms of the Corsi battle, puck possession, whatever you want to call it. They've been able to handle that. They just haven't really, I guess, been generating quality chances. They're, 33 scoring chances, 4 per 60 is a really nice number. But 5.7 high danger is extremely low. So a lot of just kind of firing the puck from the outside by the looks of things that, when you've got a 58% Corsi for, but a 47 expected goals for percentage, you're really not generating those high quality chances. So while they look okay in terms of scoring chances and kind of the Corsi for number, it's a little bit misleading. So all in all, it's just really tough for me to be a huge fan of anybody in this game. For Philadelphia, or I guess I should say for Washington, the Ovechkin line is really the only line that's been brutal defensively. Evgeny Kuznetsov, Tom Wilson, and Ovechkin, 45.7 Corsi for, 45.4 expected goals for percentage. So that would be the one line that you would maybe want to target from from a Philadelphia side of things. You'll see a little bit, 27% for the Couturier line, 23% for the third line. So based on the matchups alone, if you want to kind of just take the offensive numbers out of it and just say, hey, who's got the best matchup? I would say that it's probably the Couturier line. Obviously, they've run pretty cold lately. I don't know the exact number, but I feel like James Van Riemsdyk hasn't scored in like 13 games or 14 games or something like that. Don't quote me, but it's been a while, or he, very few goals at least over the last month or so. And honestly, I'm not all that surprised. If you listen to my season-long podcast, I was saying that he was shooting like 30%, not a whole lot of shot volume to really support that either. So it was kind of only a matter of time before this cold streak clicked in. But Van Riemsdyk, Couturier, Farabee have had their success so far this season, and at times this season, I should say, and it is a good matchup. So if you want to kind of play the pure matchup standpoint, I think that Philly 1 makes the most sense. Philly 2 looks okay. From the Washington side of things, it doesn't look great. If you were to play, maybe you play Washington 2. Hopefully they get a little bit of boost from Mantha. He comes in, looking to make a statement right away. They're very reasonably priced. Mantha at 4,900, Backstrom 5,500, Oshie 5,300. So you get a little bit of savings as opposed to playing Washington 1 with Ovechkin at 8,700. There's obviously a little bit of interest in Washington just because Brian Elliott hasn't been very good. The Flyers haven't been very good. So picking your spots, I would imagine Ovechkin's pretty popular tonight. To me, I just don't like, paying for almost no 5v5 production. But speaking of the power play, which is where he makes his hay, negative power play score tonight. Their power play just is slightly above average on tonight's slate. The Flyers penalty kills right around average, just doesn't look great. So I'm probably not playing too many Capitals tonight. I would imagine they'll still be pretty popular. So maybe this is a good spot to get some leverage. Hopefully it's a low scoring game, which is what it looks like, kind of just a boring game. But obviously the Flyers have had a tough time keeping the puck out of their net. So who knows? Jersey and Rangers. So this game was a little bit more interesting. New Jersey 1 grades out exceptionally well tonight, and they're just 11,900. So they look like a pretty solid value stack option tonight. New Jersey 2 actually grades out pretty well as well. Nico Hischier makes his return to the lineup. We're expecting, they didn't run lines this morning, so it's really hard to kind of be like, hey, play these 3 together, because I'm not at 100% sold on what their lines are going to look like. But they're probably just going to slide him in for Pavel Zacha. That's what I'm projecting. It makes the most sense. They play a very similar style of game in terms of just being both pretty reliable two-way forwards. So I would imagine he just kind of slides in between Miles Wood and Jesper Bratt. He's got a lot of chemistry with Bratt over the years. So that's kind of what I'm projecting. New York 2 projects to be the best play from the Rangers side of things. New York 1 slightly below average. So from a matchup standpoint, there's a little bit more to break down in this game. We'll look a little bit more on the New York Rangers side of things. So the top line is basically going to only see the top 6. The second line is basically only going to see the Devils' bottom 6. So it makes it kind of a little bit easier to break down that way. So as I've mentioned before, that the top line just really, the numbers just haven't been great this year. I don't even know if I've played Zibanejad once. Obviously, it's worked more than it hasn't. He's obviously crushed me a couple times, but more often than not, it's worked, and the numbers just still aren't great. 46.7 Corsi 4 percentage, 47.7 expected goals 4 percentage. The numbers just aren't that great. And as I mentioned, they're going to be going primarily up against the top 6, which is much better defensively than the bottom 6 for the Devils. So from a matchup standpoint, and just from an overall offensive production standpoint, New York 2 looks like the no-brainer option tonight. I would only go with Strome and Panarin. That second line right wing seems to have become a bit of a revolving door. We've seen not Blackwood. What the hell is his name? So I'm drawing a blank here. Blackwell play there recently. We've seen Kako play there at times. Kravtsov even moved up. So it's tough to be like, hey, let's play Blackwell, and then Kravtsov moves up like immediately or in the second period or whatever, and then you're kind of just not getting any production from Blackwell. So for me, probably just Panarin, Strome, mini stack, but the matchup looks really, really solid for them. Nice matchup with the bottom 6 of the Devils. Their offensive production has been pretty solid. It only grades out slightly above average on tonight's slate. They don't really generate a whole lot in terms of high danger, but 33 scoring chances, 4 per 60 is a really nice number. 2.57 expected goals for is solid. But now back to the New Jersey Devils side of things. So Devils 1, basically going to go up head-to-head against the Zibanejad line and the Heidel line most of the night. And you really couldn't ask for a better matchup, if you are Jack Hughes. The worst defensive line is the Heidel, Kako, Lafreniere line. The second worst defensive line for the Rangers is that Zibanejad line. So doesn't get much better in terms of the matchup tonight for Hughes. Blackwell does have three goals in his last 4 games, 6 in his last 10. Yeah, I know that. That's fine. But he's still calling Blackwell at the end of the day. If you want to continue, if you want to chase that, if you want to, obviously he's in a good spot. If he stays there, that's totally fine. I get it. But I mean, I'm not chasing, a Colin Blackwell hot streak personally, but if you want to full stack them, that's totally fine too. Like, I get it. His price is just 3,100. So if you want a full stack, totally reasonable. I get it 100%. I just have a little bit of concern as to whether or not he sticks there for an entire game, because they do have kind of a plethora of options, and they have shown the willingness to shuffle things around. So, if you want to full stack it and you expect him to stay there all game because he's been hot, then absolutely, I'm totally fine with that, 100%. But back to the Devils a little bit here. So yeah, top line has been really, really solid. Hughes, Sharangovich, and Yanni Kokkonen. I mean, there's nothing not to like. The Corsi 4 is above 60%. Expected goals 4 percentage is above 60%. They're really not even giving up a lot defensively either. Obviously, they've been playing in much cushier matchups. They look like they're going to play in a little bit tougher matchups moving forward now that Travis Zajac is gone. Maybe once Hischier and Zacha are both healthy, they'll go back to kind of giving them those really cushy minutes. But tonight, going up against the top line is no joke, but the Rangers top line has not been great defensively, so it shouldn't scare us off. So I do like New Jersey 1 as a value stack. I've talked about Sharangovich quite a bit on this show. 3,700 provides you with very, very, consistent shot volume throughout the season. Hughes, obviously, his floor isn't great, but His ceiling is really good. He's had some big games so far this year. So I do like New Jersey 1 quite a bit. Jack Hughes has been shooting a little bit more as of late. As for Kuokkanen, I mean, if I was going to leave somebody off this stack, it would be him, but he's been okay as well. 20 points in 35 games this season. You don't get the same floor out of him in terms of the shot volume. He's probably not going to score the goal if this line scores tonight, but he could definitely pick up a helper. But if you were going to leave one off, you still want to mini stack him, I would go with Hughes and Sharon Govich. The second line looks pretty solid as well. They're just a little bit more expensive. It's Hischier in his first game back, basically it's only his 6th game of the season. He's had really good numbers when he's played. But it's just a little bit tougher to be like, hey, let's play $6,000 for Hischier when you can get Hughes, $1,100 cheaper. But in terms of his matchup, he is going to see, quite a bit of that Zibanejad line as well. So he definitely has a good matchup as well. I don't like the second line quite as much with Wood, Hischier, and Bratt. Bratt's obviously had a pretty strong season, so there is a case to be made about New Jersey 2. I just think I would rather take the value with New Jersey 1. So that's the way I look at it in this game. Third game of the night is the Bruins and the Sabres. Let's get to it. So Boston 1, no surprise, grades out the best, but Boston 2, a close second. So as I mentioned, Taylor Hall going to be making his Bruins debut tonight. So he will be, they put the perfection line, if you want to call it that, still back together, Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak, which is great for Pastrnak. Bergeron and Marchand had some success with Craig Smith up there, but Pasternak's numbers just weren't nearly as good offensively with David Krejci. So putting them all back together definitely helps. So Pastrnak definitely makes them a little bit harder to full stack because of the price, obviously. And then the second line is Taylor Hall, David Krejci, and Craig Smith. So that has the look of a really, really good line. And I think, Taylor Hall has shot 2.3%. I tweeted it out the other day. He is among some of the worst forwards in NHL history in terms of shooting percentage with at least 80 shots. It's a joke. And he's much more talented than that. Obviously, things didn't go well in Buffalo. I think that this was a really good pickup for them, especially it was such a cheap price to pay. Nothing can go wrong. Even if he sucks, who cares? It was totally worth the gamble. And they barely gave anything up. So I think he is going to have success. And I think, with David Krejci, it's the perfect fit for him. Craig Smith provides a little bit of offense as well. So that's a nice looking second line. The issue for Hall, obviously, is going to be on the second power play unit. But the good news is that he fully correlates with his line on that second power play unit. So I mean, they're not going to see quite as much usage as the top power play unit, but there is a lot of correlation there. I do like them. I just think there's a little bit of a revenge game narrative if you want to play it. You're going back, or you're not going back to, but they're hosting the Sabres immediately. How Buffalo Sabres would it be to just get, screwed in a trade, just get ripped off basically, and then he just lights you up immediately after only scoring 2 goals for you all season? I mean, it would be perfect. And it's probably going to happen. So obviously, I do like Boston 1, no doubt about it. But $24,600 to full stack them it's pricey. Taylor Hall, I mean, his price is very low because of how bad he was in Buffalo. $4,800 for Taylor Hall to full stack them, only $13,100. I mean, it's ridiculously cheap. So I love Boston too tonight. I think that maybe it's a little bit of a narrative, but in terms of let's take a look at the numbers as well. There's not a real whole lot going on here in terms of matchups. The only thing we'll start with Boston too, since I'm talking about them. They're basically just going to avoid the third line. They're going to see quite a bit of ice time against the fourth line of the Sabres, though, and they're just a tire fire defensively. They are the worst defensive line on the entire slate. So you're going to get 36% of their ice time is going to be coming against the worst defensive line on the slate. But then it doesn't even really matter if you go up. It doesn't matter who you face against Sabres. They're just not good defensively the way this lineup is built right now. All 4 lines getting caved in. So it's a great matchup for Boston 1. It's a great matchup for Boston 2. Obviously, Boston 1 has the higher upside, but you get Boston 1 at literally half the price. So, if you're making a lot of lineups, I feel confident playing both of them. Absolutely. Boston 2 looks solid. I think there's a lot of revenge narrative to be had here. Taking a look at the numbers, I mean, pretty solid even without Taylor Hall. 55.8 Corsi 4, 57.2 expected goals for percentage, 25 scoring chances, and 9 high danger. Nothing amazing, but adding Taylor Hall into the mix as opposed to maybe like a Nick Ritchie or a Jake DeBrusk with Krejci and Craig Smith should definitely help boost those offensive numbers. So I really like Boston 2 tonight. There's a lot to like there. As for the other side of things, there's been plenty of value to be had out of the Sabres recently. Casey Middlestad has been playing very well. Tage Thompson's just been an absolute shot volume machine. I still like Tage Thompson as kind of a one-off play just because of his shot volume. Has been so consistent. We've seen pretty good stuff out of Sam Reinhart, Victor Olofsson lately. I just don't know if I love this matchup tonight. The Bruins obviously just gave up 8 goals, but their blue line was absolutely destroyed the other night. But it looks like they're going to get Charlie McAvoy back tonight, which is obviously a massive boost. Adding Mike Riley into the mix is a nice pickup. He's just a very stable middle, or I guess I'd say top 4 defenseman. He's not spectacular, but he should stabilize that top 4 a little bit. Kevin Miller draws back in. So their blue line's looking a lot better than it did against the Capitals the other night. And Swayman's just been really good. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in the Sabres tonight. Tage Thompson, like I said, decent one-off option. It just doesn't look great in terms of you're going to be basically seeing, their top 2 lines are basically just going to be going head-to-head with Bergeron and Krejci, and both those lines are very solid defensively. So it's just very difficult to be, overly excited about the Sabres tonight. I'm all in on Boston 2. I'm definitely going to have some Boston 1 exposure as well. It is worth mentioning, though, Mike Riley is going to be on the top power play unit with Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand. Mike Riley, just 2,700 on DraftKings. He's got 19 assists in the 40 games while playing with the Senators. He's always been a guy that's picked up points in the power play. Bit of a power play specialist. At times, his price was up, near 4,500. So it's very surprising to see him down to 2,700. Even, when he was still with the Senators, he's had 5 assists in his last 6 games. So he's even pretty hot. So tremendous value there. If you are playing Boston 1, he's a no-brainer, right? Because they're so expensive that you need to find that value at D, and Mike Riley is an absolute no-brainer at 2,700. If you're stacking Boston 2, obviously trying to stuff Charlie McAvoy in there makes a lot of sense because, they aren't as expensive. You have no problem paying up for D at that point. But again, he is a game time decision, so just keep an eye on Charlie McAvoy's status during warmups. All right, the Maple Leafs coming in on a back-to-back. It looked like they stayed up a little late last night, or a little bit later on Sunday, maybe drinking, watching the Masters, because they looked terrible against the Senators last night. Against the Canadiens last night. But, the Canadiens, if you've watched the show, the Canadiens can do that to you. As long as they stay out of the box, the Canadiens are one of the best 5v5 teams in the entire NHL. They are tremendous defensively, so they can just do that to you. And as long as their goaltenders are playing well, think that can happen. Galchenyuk remains on the top line. Mikheyev and Hyman with Tavares. No real changes here for the Maple Leafs. For the Flames, they shuffled their lines heading into the Edmonton game after a long layoff. They crushed Edmonton. This new lineup looked pretty solid for them. But again, overall, the Flames just aren't a very good offensive team. But let's take a look anyways at this game. Toronto 2 grades out exceptionally well. If you've been watching this show, you know that I'm a sucker for Toronto 2. Tavares has been red hot as of late. I like them a little bit more when Nylander's playing. But the numbers with Hyman and Mikheyev have actually been really solid. So we'll get into that in a minute. Toronto 1's obviously a no-brainer. Super strong option tonight as well. Matthews 9,300, Marner 8,300. So you're going to have to find some value options, but there's quite a few, whether it's New Jersey 1 or Boston 2, both very cheap and allows you to kind of play some of these higher price lines. So Calgary 2 looks solid as well. Mangiapane, Monahan, and Dubé grade out well. If you've been a loyal listener to this show, you know that basically whatever line Mangiapane plays on, their underlying numbers get a boost. But overall, probably not going to be on the Flames tonight. So in terms of the matchup, it's going to be Toronto 1 basically head-to-head with Calgary 1, Toronto 2 head-to-head with Calgary 2, Toronto 3 head-to-head with Calgary 4. That's kind of how things are going to shake out tonight. It's not like a 100% hard match, but about 50 to 60% of the ice time, as you can see here. And that's kind of how they've been going about things recently. So when you look at the Flames, they're, under Daryl Sutter, they're probably a little bit of a better defensive team, but they're just not scoring any goals whatsoever. So, the Corsi 4 is actually really solid. They're winning the possession battle, but they're very, a pretty low event hockey team. So, they could suck the life out of this game a little bit and make things a little bit tougher on the Maple Leafs, but especially with the Leafs on a back-to-back. But I think I still like Toronto. Just the Flames have had a tough time this season. Markstrom's not been all that great. So Toronto 1 still seems rock solid. I mean, you can't stop Austin Matthews, no matter who you are, no matter how good. Even last night, the Canadians played an unbelievable game. Matthews still finds a way to score at least one goal, right? So, he's been really good. For Haggie's out, man, every day. Is it COVID? Let me know if it's COVID. Every day I go live, somebody gets ruled out. So yeah, Toronto won, as I mentioned. They're going to go head-to-head with this Calgary one line. Obviously, Calgary's top line looks pretty solid defensively on paper. Lindholm is one of the best two-way centers in the league. David Riddick confirmed as a starter for the Maple Leafs tonight too. So that's good. Everything always happens when I go live. Sorry, sidetracked there for a second. So yeah, not the greatest matchup for Toronto one, but they should still have be able to find some success. A little bit better matchup for the second line of the Maple Leafs, and as you can see here, the numbers are incredible. With Mikheyev, Hyman, and Tavares, I mean, better than Toronto one. They have the best offensive numbers on the entire slate, so there maybe is some reason to like them. Mikheyev has looked really good this season. Always hasn't been able to find the back of the net as much as you'd expect him to based on the amount of chances he's had. But if you're looking for, another, medium price line, they look like it. 15,900, they look rock solid. Tavares will look to stay hot, 6,200. I don't love paying 6,500 for Zach Hyman, but if you're full stacking, you're full stacking. If you want to go with Toronto one, though, I totally understand it. I mean, why not? The consistency, the floor is much better than Toronto two. And you do get a little bit of value in Galchenyuk, who's looked solid no matter what lineup he has or what line he has played on. As for the Flames side of things, it just doesn't look all that great. I mean, the only two lines you'd probably want to target are the top two lines, and they've got the tougher of the two matchups against the Matthews and the Tavares line. So I don't love the Flames tonight. I just they obviously had one good game. I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot of carryover. I mean, they were playing a tired Edmonton team after they had a long break. So I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot of carryover from the Edmonton game to this Toronto game. And I just I can't get behind the Flames the way that they've played offensively for the majority of the season. One game isn't going to change my mind on that. All right, Tampa Bay and Nashville. Tampa Bay 1, Tampa Bay 2, grayed out really, really well. If you missed it the other night, Steven Stamkos is out. So what does that do to the Lightning lineup? They basically just full stack the top line. You got Palat, you got Point, Cirelli all together. The whole third line moves up becomes their second line. Then their third line is has no appeal whatsoever. So Tampa Bay 1, Tampa Bay 2, grayed out the best in this game. It's basically going to be top six against top six, bottom six against bottom six for the most part. That's the way things are going to look. Tampa 1 basically is just going to play, I guess, against everybody. So really just no hard matching in this game, which again obviously makes it very difficult to break down. The Predators have actually been pretty stout defensively, except for that second line. That second line is just an absolute abomination. They just play very high event. Like, they're not bad offensively, but they're just a tire fire defensively. So that's the line that you want to try to target from the Predators. Whoever's going to play the most against them, it looks basically like an even split between Tampa Bay 1, Tampa Bay 2. Like I said, you're not going to really want to play Tampa Bay 3. It's not a whole lot of offensive production there. I mean, the underlying numbers, are not very good. So, they're okay, but they're not great. I just don't see like 50 Corsi 4, like just the lowest event game ever. So, no interest there. I would probably just go with Tampa Bay 1. I mean, they're stacked, right? It's their best players all in one line. I love this this third line, now their second line. I've played them. I played them against Columbus the other night. They just went crazy, I got super lucky there. I just don't know if I see it tonight. UC Saros has been great. I think that this has the looks of like a 3-2 game, pretty low scoring. So I don't love this game as a whole. But if I was going to play, I think you get a pretty nice price. Oh my God, what happened there? I think you get a pretty nice price on this top line. 16,000 a full stack. I mean, Plot 5,800, Point 6,100, Cirelli 4,200. It's a really nice price for a really talented line across the board. So I just don't think I would drop down to that second line just because there's you don't really need to in terms of pricing. And the top line has a much, much higher ceiling. David Savard does check into the lineup for his Lightning debut. Obviously, not a guy that presents a ton of offense, but he is just 2,900. He blocks a shitload of shots. He played a bunch of minutes in Tampa or in Columbus, playing with Victor Hedman. You'd imagine he plays a shitload of ice time here. So the opportunity to block shots should be plenty. tonight. So David Savard might be a decent, punt option at 2,900. McDonough looks okay too. Sorelli is on that second power play unit, so if you can't pay up for Hedman, you don't want to play Savard. McDonough looks okay at 4,500 back on the power play a little bit for them. Maybe you want to play the top line, you can't pay for Hedman. Then Sergachev looks fine too at 5,000. He's been just very reliable in terms of the shot volume, in terms of the blocking shots. He's just a very steady floor with Sergachev. The ceiling's not always, he doesn't always reach his ceiling, which is unfortunate. I expect to see more big games out of Sergachev, but it just never really materializes. So, but still a pretty stable floor if you can't get all the way up for Hedman, who is, I think, the most expensive defenseman at 7,000. So, I haven't taken a look at the power play report here in a minute. The Rangers have the best power play advantage on the entire slate. So again, going back to the Rangers a little bit, Strome and Panarin again just make a lot of sense. They play together in the top power play unit. Really, really good. Is Ross Colton going to catch Matthews in the NHL goalie? No. Him and Adam Ernie are just freaks right now, red hot. Same with Thomas Nosek. They both, all three of them, have been crazy hot as bottom, basically fourth line forwards. So the Rangers look really good in the power play. The Devils not so much. Obviously, they're going to have to do most of their damage on the power play, or at 5v5, excuse me. Their power play is a joke. The Bruins, slightly positive advantage on the power play. The Sabres have been very disciplined, which sucks that number down a little bit. Bruins power play really hasn't been all that solid, but the Sabres penalty kill is terrible. So the Bruins should have some opportunities. Leafs, the second biggest power play advantage on the slate. The power play on paper looks really good. Obviously, they've had their struggles, but Calgary, one of the most undisciplined teams on the entire slate. Their penalty kill slightly below average, so it looks like a decent opportunity there for the Maple Leafs. Flames below average on the power play. The fourth worst power play advantage. So again, just another reason to not want to play the Flames for me tonight. The Predators look terrible on the power play tonight. Not a good power play. Lightning have a good penalty kill. No, thank you. The Lightning look so-so. They actually aren't that great on the power play either. The Predators are pretty average on the penalty kill. But, I just don't love that game as a whole. And then in the last game here, we've got the Panthers have a pretty sizable power play advantage. The power play is really, really good. The Stars power penalty kill, very mediocre, but they are one of the most disciplined teams on the slate. So this game obviously is going to get a little weird now with Carter Verhaeghe being out. I'm trying to find some information as I go here as to what is going to happen. Verhaeghe is week to week with an upper body injury. Okay. So yeah, that's brutal for them. So what I would imagine, very simple. Mason Marchment will move up to that top line and replace Carter Verhaeghe. What that's going to do to the numbers is not going to be great. The numbers are definitely going to take a hit. Are they going to be terrible? No. Are they going to be great? Probably not. They're not going to be, the 5v5 score is not going to be nearly this high. Right now, I mean, that line was the best line, in all of hockey for, the first 2 months of the season. So, you're not going to be looking at 36. Let me see if I can even just pull it up here. Go to my friends at Natty Statty, who provide all this information for us. So I actually really liked Florida one tonight. Now, not so much. I mean, Mason Marchment's been fine there, but I don't even know if this trio's even played together yet this season. 16 seconds together. So, it has not been all that good. Without Verhaeghe, they've only played 13 minutes in the numbers. I mean, it's too small of a sample size to even talk about. But it's tough. I don't really know what to expect now at that point. It is going to hurt their numbers overall. From a matchup perspective, they're going to go head to head with that Radek Faksa line, who's been really steady defensively this year. If Verhaeghe was in and producing those kind of numbers, then they're basically matchup proof. But at this point, I don't know if I love them so much anymore. I did like this game quite a bit. I did like that line a lot. Hudobin's been playing really, really well. So, I think you can still take a shot in the dark with them. I think that this should bring their ownership down a little bit too. I think a lot of people like me who are like, hey, I want to play them, probably not so much anymore with Verhaeghe out. So the one good thing is you get Duclair at 3,500. Is that even right? I feel like I made a mistake there. Wow, it is right. Okay, so you get Duclair at 3,500. You get Marchment at 2,900. So, you can play Barkov, full stack Barkov's line for next to nothing. So, it looks like Lucas Wallmark's coming in tonight, not Gusev. They said that Gusev is going to go up and play on that line. I wish he was coming in. That would be kind of exciting. But with Marchment, I mean, you can full stack Barkov's line for super cheap. How often can you do that? Almost never. So it is still a little bit interesting, but the matchup isn't great, and they're probably not going to be nearly as good. As I've mentioned, I don't really love the rest of this lineup. Never really played that second line. The power play is really where you're going to get production from them. Their power play looks solid tonight, so I guess there is reason to be okay with it. In terms of their matchup, they're going to see Dallas 2-4. Dallas 2-4 is still pretty solid defensively. So overall, this game looks like it'll probably be pretty boring way to close out the night. But 4-1, I think I would still be okay. Stack Barkov and Marchment with Toronto 1. If you're going to stack, I would probably, if you're going to stack Duclair with Barkov as opposed to Marchment. I mean, the price difference is very minimal. Duclair is much more dangerous offensive player than Marchment is. Definitely going to shoot a lot more than Marchment is. So, if you want to play Toronto 1, that's totally cool. Barkov, but if you can fit it, I would just definitely pay up for Duclair as opposed to Marchment because it's not even 100% that Marchment's going to go there. That's just kind of my projection. From the Dallas side of things, I love that top line. They are going to go head-to-head with that Wenberg line. And while that Wenberg line doesn't, I don't get excited about them. The reason I don't get excited about them is they're so boring. They don't do anything. They're, so low event. So it's going to limit Dallas 1's upside tonight. Chris Driedger is just so good, too. So, there's lots of nights where I'm going to be all over Dallas 1. Tonight doesn't really look like one of those nights, especially at their price, right? $18,400 to full stack them in a tough matchup. I would just rather pay $18,000 to play many other lines. That makes them the fourth most expensive line on the entire slate. A couple $1,000s shy of what Toronto won is. I would rather full stack New York 2, right? Rather stack New York 2, probably Tampa Bay 1, Toronto 2, Boston 2. It doesn't make a lot of sense to play them tonight, in my opinion. So that's that. In terms of the overall score, 4-1 was at the top. It's not so much anymore. New Jersey 1, they look really good tonight as value stack option. Toronto 2, Boston 2, Toronto 1, all look really good. So Toronto, Boston, get the majority of my attention tonight. They're going to be the most chalky on the slate as well, though. So you're going to have to find ways to get different elsewhere, but there's plenty of really, really good options tonight. In terms of the goaltenders, Chris Driedger grades out with the best numbers overall tonight. Last time our top goaltender, Capo Kakkonen, gave up 9 goals. It was a shit show. I still cashed that night, which is amazing because Toronto 1 went crazy. But yeah, Kakkonen had minus 10 DraftKings points, and I still cashed across the board. It was probably my best DFS accomplishment ever. Better than any takedown ever. Cashing with minus 10 or 13 or whatever it was from your goalie was awesome. But the Wild just looked absolutely terrible that night. Even the team was Kakkonen was great. He didn't stand a chance. So Driedger number 1, Vasilevsky number 2. But again, just keep in mind it could definitely be McElhinney tonight. Just based on what kind of the minimal reports that we have. Again, that's just kind of a reporter's guess. Nothing official from the coach. Igor Shesterkin, number 3. Jeremy Swayman, number 4. UC Saros, number 5. UC Saros, obviously, chances of winning are pretty limited, but Chauvelin should be tons. We've seen him turn in plenty of big saves nights. So definitely a decent option at 7,600. That's that. It doesn't look like any really super strong value goaltenders tonight. Markstrom, maybe if you're fading Toronto, I don't hate it just because they are pretty good defensively. And he's obviously has talent. He just hasn't been great this year. So he looks okay if you need to really pay down. And if you're fading Toronto, you get some leverage on the field there. But overall, a lot of these cheap goalies look very, very tough. Saros is the guy that might steal a win and really cash in for goalies tonight. Yeah, I definitely think so. And the other thing about him is that there's no Stamkos, right? There's no Stamkos, there's no Kucherov. That Tampa Bay Lightning lineup doesn't look as good as it normally does. Still really good. That blue line is still probably the best in the league. But this isn't your everyday Tampa Bay Lightning, right? They're just very mediocre. The problem is that the Nashville lineup is almost the same, right? They don't have anybody either. So it's he could steal a win. I guess the thing is he could steal a win, right? This team isn't going to go out and win this game 4-3. It's just unless McElhinney starts, right? Then you got to like Saros even more. Is it confirmed? McAvoy's in? No, he's game time decision. Yeah, it looks solid. Tampa for defense standpoint. So 2-1 games. Yeah, like that's the thing, right? This lineup's not going to go and blow the doors off anybody offensively either. So if it is a low-scoring game, Saros could definitely be a guy to steal a game tonight. 7,600 probably looks like the best value goaltender option. I will try to run through the defensemen. I haven't had a great time to look at them, but I mentioned a couple of really good value options already. I do like McAvoy if he plays at 5,700. I do like Sergachev at 5,000. Trouba's been incredibly consistent as of late. Shot volume, blocking shots has been just through the roof. He's going up in price, but still just 4,600. He looks great if you can't get up to Adam Fox. Ryan Ellis hasn't been great, but 4,200 for Ryan Ellis is far too cheap for just what Ryan Ellis brings to the table, right? As we go down this list, I think just the guys I've already mentioned are my favorites. I mean, like, there's no reason not to play Mike Riley, right? He looks great. David Savard, no reason not to be excited about him in terms of what he offers in the shot blocking department. And he, if he plays 23 minutes tonight, he's probably getting that shot block bonus, right? So, those are kind of my favorites. I don't think there's a real reason to dig in too much deeper. Mackenzie Weegar's looked solid. He's still up there in price. No real injuries that have opened up the door. So those are kind of my guys. Ryan Lindgren's always a decent cheap option as well. He's 2,600, but I would still rather play Mike Riley and David Savard. Alexiak's always solid. He's always been a favorite of mine, but that game's kind of boring. So anyways, that's going to do it for today's DFO DFS show Sorry, I keep thinking it's Monday. For Tuesday, the 13th of April. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys have plenty of luck tonight. I hope you guys return tomorrow with more money in your bankroll than you had tonight. Good luck to everybody. We'll be back here tomorrow for the Wednesday edition of the DFO DFS show at 5:15 p.m. Eastern. Good luck to everybody tonight. See you guys back here tomorrow. Yeah, Orlov's fine. He's fine. I don't love that game either, but Orlov is definitely okay. But cheers. See you guys tomorrow.